Before Konami really started to experiment with different extra deck mechanics, they experimented with a lot of main deck mechanics and many of them were unsuccessful. In today's video, I want to talk about the level mechanic. It's kind of hard to call it that, but that's basically what it is. Konami made a whole bunch of monsters over the course of about 5 years that leveled up as you completed tasks. Many of these cases, you only had to wait around, but in a lot of them, you had to do specific things to get bigger monsters out, and this mechanic as a whole pretty much failed completely. I will mention that there were some cards that at least had some success and or were designed well. So the most well-known level monster by far is Horus, the Black Flame Dragon. While the Armed Dragon archetype or the Armed Dragon level monsters, I don't even know if they're really archetypes, but the Armed Dragon monsters are probably known for like being in the anime and stuff. These cards actually had impact on the metagame. In particular, Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6 had a lot of impact. This card has pretty good stats, 2300 attack points, and the most important thing here is that unlike a lot of the cards we're going to take a look at in this video, this one has an inherent ability even if you don't summon it via the original Horus the Black Flame Dragon, which is a level 4 monster. So even just as a normal summon or tribute summon monster or a special summon monster, this thing is unaffected by spell effects. That means you can't Smash and Ground it, you can't Regeki it, you can't Dark Hole it, all these different things, and that was actually pretty relevant back in the day. And then also it has this during the end phase effect. If you destroy a monster by battle, you can special summon Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8 from your hand or deck. And that's basically the level mechanic that Konami tried to introduce. Usually during the end phase or a standby phase, you sent the monster currently on the board to the graveyard to special summon the higher level version of it. And even though Horus wasn't really played in a dedicated Horus deck a lot, it actually saw some play. I will say, and this might surprise some of you guys, what I believe is one of the most well-designed level monsters in terms of what I would have liked to see happen with these cards is Dark Mimic level 3. Now, why do I think this is well-designed? Clearly this card isn't that good, even though, just for reference, people did experiment with this card in Tour Guide of the Underworld. But anyway, that's not super important. So this card has an effect. If it's destroyed by battle, it's at the graveyard, draw 1 card, but if this card was special summoned by the effect of Dark Mimic level 1, draw 2 cards instead. So this thing is cool because it has a normal effect, but then it also gains a bonus version of that normal effect if you summon it via the level up method. And I think this is how level monsters should have been set up. I don't think they should have punished you with a bunch of inconsistent cards that don't have a lot of payoff if you can't summon them via the lower level cards. I think they only should have rewarded you, and even back when these cards were coming out, they weren't really played that much, so it's not really like a 2018 perspective looking at these cards saying they're bad. They were bad when they came out, but Dark Mimic level 3 has some good card design and pretty much is what I would have liked to see with the rest of the monsters. Now I will also say that the level up card is pretty good. It's basically a transmodify for level monsters, and I think for what it does, it's fine. Transmodify has seen play in a variety of decks, and because this is basically that, although a little better because usually you're gaining like 2 levels with the card, I think this card is fine. It's not like fantastic or anything, but in the context of the level monsters, it's pretty good. And this is another card that if all support cards were like this, the archetype or the series of cards, whatever you want to call them, may have been semi-playable. But obviously they weren't playable, and I'm going to go through a lot of the problems with this sort of series of cards. So first off, let's look at Armed Dragon level 3. During your standby phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard, special summon 1 Armed Dragon level 5 from your hand or deck. Now there's 2 problems with this. The first problem is that it has no effects besides the special summon effect, and the second problem is that how the heck is this thing going to last until the standby phase? I think the best way to summon Armed Dragon level 5 using this card is by like setting a Masked Dragon. Your opponent attacks the Masked Dragon, you summon this, and then during your standby phase, you special summon Armed Dragon level 5. But you can just tribute summon Armed Dragon level 5. There's no reason to play this card, which sort of doesn't make sense because the whole point of a level deck is to increase from the smallest level to the highest level and gain incrementally better effects as you go along, except this card doesn't even have any effects, and it easily could have had an effect. It easily could have had more attack points. There's like 100 changes to this card that would have made it not this terrible, but this is sort of like one of the worst low low level leveled monsters. We can also look at Silent Swordsman level 5. Now this card wasn't that great because it has to just not only attack during the turn, but also successfully inflict battle damage to your opponent via a direct attack. And then you have to wait until the next standby phase to get this special summon. Now this card also does have sort of the same effect as Horus Black Flame Dragon level 6, where it's unaffected by spell effects, which is cool, except Horus you don't have to wait until the next standby phase. That's way too slow even in the context of when this card came out. It's just absolutely insane. Where Horus you only have to wait until the end phase, which is kind of feasible. Not to mention that Horus level 8 is a lot better than Silent Swordsman level 7, but that's not really the important part about Silent Swordsman level 5. It's really the fact that you have to wait an entire turn after attacking directly. At that point, you probably should just be playing better cards, because if you're able to successfully do a direct attack and have the card that did the direct attack survive until the next turn, you're clearly in a winning position already. Why are you wasting your time with a level deck? Then we can look at an even worse card, Dark Lucius level 4. So why is this card bad? This card's bad because not only does it have to attack, it has to actually destroy an opponent's monster by battle, and then once again you have to wait until the next standby phase, but this thing only has 1,000 attack points. Like, how the heck are you going to run something over by battle? I mean, even in the context of this coming out in Cyberdark Impact, you're never getting this effect off. It's just never going to happen, and the Dark Lucius cards aren't that good to begin with, so the fact that this has one of the most ridiculous setups is pretty silly. Not to mention that in Cyberdark Impact, this is when they were trying to reinvent the level monsters. This is when this is like a new series of cards. Level monsters hadn't been out. I think they had been gone for a couple sets at that point, and then they brought them back, and they're just like worse. And when I say they are worse, I mean this set also had Allure Queens, and the Allure Queens were not very good either. We can look at Allure Queen level 5 because that has an even more ridiculous requirement. So this one doesn't have to attack anything. It has to be summoned by Allure Queen level 3, and then it has to equip a card with its effect, so your opponent has to have a level 5 or lower monster, and then it has to still have that equip card during your next standby phase to level up. And that is just like, how is that ever going to happen? Like, I don't know how the level cards somehow got worse as time went on, but the Cyberdark Impact ones were absolutely terrible. Even destroying something in a battle with a low attack is pretty silly, but I don't know how often you would ever get Allure Queen level 5 off. It seems so ridiculous doing the setup with Allure Queen level 3, and then going into level 5, and having the level 5 survive, and then your payoff is Allure Queen level 7, which isn't even that good. But I think what we can really look at here is that in a lot of these cases, the payoff was bad. Like, let's look at Ultimate Insect level 7, and the Ultimate Insect level monsters have a ton of different levels. It's like a level 1, a level 3, and a level 5, and then the level 7. So there's a lot of steps to get to this thing, and if this card was special summon by effect of Ultimate Insect level 5, while it remains on your field, all your opponent's monsters lose 700 attack and defense. How is that worth building an entire deck around? I mean, I'll give this card one sort of benefit of the doubt, and that is you can special summon it or tribute summon it normally, but what the heck? Like, why doesn't this have a better effect? I mean, it's called the Ultimate Insect, and all it does is reduce the attack and defense of your opponent's monsters. Like, literally, Insect Queen is better than this card, even in 2018, and that's saying something. Insect Queen obviously isn't that great. So why do they make these really hard requirements and then give you such a small payoff? It's just crazy. And then the support cards they give you besides level up, which I said was kind of okay, they're just embarrassing. Like level modulation, have you read this card? Your opponent draws 2 cards is the first line of this card's effect. If you're giving your opponent 2 draws, you have to be getting a pretty crazy effect off. I mean, Dark Bribe negates any spell or trap card and it gives your opponent 1 draw, and most people don't play it, but this card gives your opponent 2 draws. So what does it do? It's a Monster Reborn with level monsters. That's it. And not only is it just like a straight Monster Reborn, it's actually a worse Monster Reborn because the monster that was special summoned by this effect cannot attack or activate its effect or apply its effect during this turn. So it's a worse Monster Reborn that gives your opponent 2 draws. Yes, it ignores the summoning condition. No, that does not matter. Why did Konami make these cards? I don't know. I think they were just experimenting was sort of this leveling up mechanic and like special summoning cards from the deck. There weren't a lot of effects back then that special summoned from the deck, so it was kind of interesting, but man, these cards are bad. Do I think that they're sort of completely unsalvageable? Not necessarily. I really do think that Dark Mimic level 3, its design is what I would like to see out of future level monsters. If they just gave them like half decent effects, but then also gave them bonus effects if you special summon them with the level up mechanic, I think that'd be kind of cool. And I think more cards like Transmodify would be cool. Maybe even just an E-Telly for level monsters that are like level 5 or lower or something. That would be kind of sweet. And like obviously Horus Black Flame Dragon level 6 is a good example of a card that has almost like, even if you take out the level mechanic Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6, it's playable, and I think that's kind of what I'd like to see. But let me know what you think about level monsters. Can they be fixed? Can Konami actually do something with this mechanic that they've forgotten about? I mean, Konami has made so many different mechanics over the years that they've just completely abandoned, this being one of them, and I think I'd like to see this mechanic salvaged. I don't know if it's actually completely possible, but let me know your thoughts on this mechanic, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.